Hi everyone, it's Lillian here and welcome to another Monday evening crafting time. I'm so glad you can join me, and for those of you who are new, I come to you every Monday evening with a live a Facebook Live when I share a project with you, and it'll include tips and tricks and might be showing new product or maybe even how to use some of the things that you already have. So thank you so much for joining me. And remember to take a moment, say hi, and maybe even share this video with your friends so that they too can have the fun of learning and crafting and even being part of this community. It's always so much fun to see the connections you make with each other and your interaction. So I am going to aim you down to my desk in a moment here, but I do have a question for you. Tonight we were enjoying fresh carrots and fresh corn out of the garden. So I thought, well, I wonder what is your favorite vegetable to eat out of the garden? If you have a fresh garden, or if you wish you had one, or if you go to a farmer's market or to go to the grocery store or whatever, what is one of your favorite vegetables to eat fresh out of the garden? And as you're saying that, I am going to take you down to my desktop and get this all set up. Oh, I'm seeing fresh green beans. Oh, excellent. Roz, welcome to, we're talking about our favorite fresh vegetable to eat out of the garden. And we can pretend that we have a garden if we don't. So just share that and be sure to say hi. And goodness, I've got this going at a wonky angle tonight. Let's go this way. See if that works. Sometimes I get it all set up before we start, and then it seems to do its own thing. So sorry about that. And we will share this so that we've got it. And fresh vegetable is carrots. Oh, it's hard to beat fresh carrots. And my husband actually manages to grow corn, and that's not that easy to do in our part of the world. So we enjoy that as well. So I love them all. I love all of the fresh things in the garden and the fresh fruit. And well, I guess I just love food. But anyway, that's what I like. And I'm wondering because I'm rambling a little bit, aren't I? So let's take a look at a die tonight. So we are going to look at the dots and spots die. Now this die is a giant one. So let's take it out here. If you had a regular sized card, so the card we made last week, look, it's even bigger than a regular sized card. This way you can cut it down if you want. You can use it as is. So it gives you lots of wiggle room, and there's so much you can do with this. Now, when the annual catalog first came out, I saw it and I thought, I'm not so sure what I would do with that. So did any of you have that same thought? What would I do with that? And then I saw some people using it and I thought, ooh, that looks pretty neat. I kind of like that. So when you cut it out, you get this kind of effect. So just like that. So then what happened is Celebration, they brought out the the second more to celebrate kind of thing. And lo and behold, it is here. And if you place a $120 order, you can earn this for free. Now, this is a different order number than the one in the catalog. So you can either place an order and then earn this for free, or you can just purchase the die. But either way, I kind of think you're going to want to get your hands on it. And just before I put this paper away, the brushed metallic paper, so it's got all the different shades of gold and copper, it is sold out for Celebration. And right now it's not orderable out of the annual catalog either, but more is coming in. So when it comes in, it's not due in until September sometime. You can still order it, but you can no longer claim it as one of your celebration items. So that's just a little aside. So I've seen some of you that were intrigued but weren't sure. And oh, Roz, you got it from celebration too. So did I. And I am really, really happy that I did. So I think the first thing I want to show you is how easily it cuts. So let me bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine here. And let me bring in some paper. I just buried it all. Here we go. Here it is. So this is the paper. Now this paper is going to be smaller, so you can do it like either way. You can just cut your paper bigger than you want and trim it down, or you can try to line it up on the die, which I've been doing and I'm happy with the results. So it's just and hold it in place like that. Flip it over, we're a little close, and then put it on your die cutting surface, and I find it stays pretty good. So I'm going to put that down. Let me see if I can get it there. And put this one on top, so it's a regular sandwich, and you run it through. And now everybody's Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, the tension is a little different. On mine, I can put it through just once and it cuts perfectly. But if you find it isn't, then run it back through, like go backwards. And so it's going through the machine twice, and I'm sure that you would have no trouble at all. So let's get the machine out of the way and bring the plates in. And when you take it off, so here's the top plate coming off, and then just like that, and this one's stuck here, but when you lift it off, look at that. You don't even have to poke any out. It's fabulous. So just a little hint, you've got lots of these little pieces. So what you can do is you can bring in your die brush, and I just have, and your little foam mat that comes with your die brush, and you can just go like that, and it's all going to come out pretty much perfectly, and then you can poke out the last few. Now, what about this? Well, what I did is I dumped those into my little tray here. The, what's it called? Oh, I should know this. I've got it written down somewhere. I'll have it in my newsletter tomorrow. So just like that. And then if some are stuck to here, you can use your spatula end to get it off, or you can just use a gift card, one that you've used, right? So this one has no longer any money on it. And then look at that, you've got tons of confetti. So I keep my little embellishment containers, I just drain them into there, and I have got confetti for shaker cards. So that's just a little aside. So we'll get that out of the way and bring it in. So we now have this a great piece here, and this is the size I wanted to use on my card tonight. So that's why I cut that out right now. But before we make tonight's card, let's take a look at some other things. So I was playing around a little bit, and I thought, what would it look like if you did it with designer paper? So I like it a lot. So let me just bring in a card base here. So there you go. So basically you're creating your own designer paper, and it's got little holes in it. So it might look pretty good at Christmas time and you could make it look like snow coming through, right? Like that. It also looks a bit like Swiss cheese to me. So if I cut it out of maybe Mango Melody or something like that, I think it would go great with some of our mouse stamps. So you can cut it out of designer paper. You can cut it out of cardstock. Then I thought, well, what would it look like if you embossed it? So I cut it out of Tahitian and Tide and then embossed it with the Fern embossing folder, and it gives a really neat look like that. So you could use it as is or cut it down to use on a card, no problem at all. So say for example, I cut one down and I had it like this. If I had a card front, You can see how that, and then you could just, I was going to get this finished today, but the grandchildren spent the day with us unexpectedly, so I didn't get the sample done. But you'll have to use your imagination and imagine that there's a focal point here, and this is the background. Or I could have cut it in the same, so it's tone on tone, and then you get this neat look. And again, you're going to have to use your imagination to imagine the finished card. So do I have to use it big? No, you can cut it down to whatever size you want, or tear it, or whatever. Something else you can do is you can also cut it out of vellum and make like a mask. Now, I could have used the masking paper, but I didn't, because, I'm sorry, I'm rambling here because I just used the paper I needed for this for something else. So I am just looking for a new piece of paper. I wanted to use something that I could see through. So you can use it now as a mask, and you can put it down. And I need some scrap paper here. I'll bring this in, slide this over. I'm going to bring in my brush, and I will bring in some Highland Heather. You can use whatever you want, of course, but this is just for this example. And I'm going to ink up my brush. Now, you could use your sponge dauber if you wanted. And then I'm going to just put ink so that it's going through those holes. Now, I don't want to cover the whole thing. I have a plan. Believe it or not, I know I wing it quite often, but I have a plan. I'm kind of going diagonally, and I'm going to hold those corners down and take a peek, and you can see that I'm getting the look there, and I want it darker here and then a bit lighter coming out like that. And let's close that up before I have an accident and take the mask off. Now, I would just take a paper towel or tissue and wipe that off, and I can use that over and over again. I'll keep this with my die. So now we've got a little background going on here. And how could I use that? Well, you can use it in all different ways. I used it on this card here. So you can see it's just a subtle background in the back. Then I stamped over top. You could put a die over top. And this is just a sympathy card that I'm needing. And you're saying, "Ooh, those are gorgeous. What are they?" Well, they are the gorgeous adhesive backed sequins and gems. So these are little sequins here. These are sequins, and then these are the gems. And look at, they really got some really neat look. So that's what I used right there to finish it off. You know, you have to have a little embellishment. So there you go. And then on the inside, I just did a few more with the mask and did some more of that. And there you go. So there is another way of using that die. But let's move on to tonight's card. So tonight's card, as I shared just before I went live, we're using the Christmas Scottie Bundle. We're using the die, and it's largely black and white with a few splashes of color. So let's make this card. We're going to bring in, first of all, I've got to clean up a little bit of my mess here. We're going to bring in our card base, and I'll have all these measurements in my newsletter tomorrow. So the card base is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So it's just your basic half sheet of cardstock folded in half. So we've got that. We're going to put that to the side. Then we're going to bring in the piece that we cut, and this is going to go on here. Now, I'll fasten it in a minute, but I'm sure some of you are thinking, this is going to be hard to glue down. It's not. You will be really amazed. And then we're going to need some white cardstock to stamp on, just some scraps. And then we're going to need a piece, well, what I'm using here is a 1/2 inch, by 2.5 inches. Then we're bringing in some real red, some basic gray, a bit more black, and you could use whatever shape you wanted, a bit of ribbon, and then a bit of this glimmer paper. This glimmer paper is called Real Red and White Glimmer Paper. It's 6 by 6, so you get the white and you get the red and you get several sheets of each. So that's in the mini catalog, and we're going to be using just a little tiny piece of that. So let's bring this over, and we'll bring in a silicone mat. Now I could put this on dimensionals and it would work just great, but I'm already putting the Scottie on dimensionals, so I decided to glue this down flat. But there's lots of room for dimensionals, especially the mini dimensionals, but any of your dimensionals, there's lots of room there. So what I do, now you will figure out your own way of doing it, I am sure, but I put a dot of glue in each corner, try not to explode it like I just did. And then if you notice, you can just kind of go in lines like that. And you don't have to do every one. I'm likely doing a lot more than I need. And if that worries you that there's a spot or two here, you can put a few more spots. But this glue is really strong glue and it will hold. And just like that, you've got glue on there. So yes, you could use an adhesive sheet, but you don't need to. So it's really easy to add the glue. So now I'm just going to center it. Now this white is 3 3/4 by 5. So it's a little bit smaller than we often have our top layers. So I have to make sure I'm not deked out. And of course, black on black here isn't helping me out a whole lot. There we go. Just like that. So now we've got that layer on. I've got a little bit there. There, wipe it out. Get the glue off my fingers. And there we go like that. Now I think the next step we should do is stamp the Scottie dog. Now when you have stamps that, like this Scottie dog here, isn't that neat to have the plaid? And when you have stamps that are solid like this, I really like to use the Stamparatus. Do you absolutely have to use the Stamparatus? No, you can use your block. But I'm going to use the Stamparatus tonight. And I wanted to show that although there are Christmas words in here, you do not need to use it strictly for Christmas. So let's bring in my Stamparatus like this. And I'm going to put my paper in position first. And I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to bring in a magnet to hold it in place. And then I'm going to bring in the little dog that I want. And I'm going to put it down as if I was stamping in the place that I want it. So I want it out here. I don't like to stamp right next to the hinge. I find I get a better impression out here. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I've got it like that. So I'm picking up the stamp. Now you notice the stamp is sticky, right? But I know that I had it right to the edge and lined up with this line. So it should be good. And I can go like that. Now, when I go to stamp, I like to put something underneath here. I better move this light. Well, maybe that's easier said than done. Put something underneath so it has some stability and I can get, I can sort of stamp a little harder than I want. So, or ink it up, pardon me. So now I'm just taking my ink pad, and this is like a giant clear block. So I'm inking it up. There we go. I'm putting it down. It's going to hit the exact spot I wanted. And a friend of mine said, sometimes your finger sticks if you use Kleenex tissue. It slides better, or you can use, there's all kinds of things you can use, but this is handy and it works well for me. And let's pick it up. And that looks pretty good. Now I see some white spots there, so I'm going to show you that we can redo it. But I want to also show you that if you end up with a solid stamp and you've got white spots and you're not using a Stamparatus, so you can't hit the same spot, bring in what's called your blender pen. Now this is different than your blends. This is a blender pen. It comes a package of 3 and it's got well, let me just get a scrap piece of paper. It sort of has clear ink in it, and you can clean it like that. But what you can do is it just sort of blends that ink together if you didn't have a Stamparatus. But we have the Stamparatus, so we are going to ink that up again and make him nice and dark. So let's ink it up. So that's a little tip for some of your solid images if you want to get a really good image, a good stamped image. There we go. Woohoo! Oh, he's looking rich and wonderful now. And now to clean this, I am going to bring in my chamois. Now the chamois don't come in this case. This is one of our clear mount cases. And I cut my chamois in half just because I find it easier to use. And I'm just going to clean that off, and then we'll be good to go. So let's take this out, and we'll put the magnet away and put this away. I'll take the stamp off later. And bring in our punch. So when you'll notice with the punch, you not only stamp out a Scottie dog, you stamp out a bow. Now, I don't need the bow this time, so it's just going to be extra. But you could color the bow if you wanted, or something like that. Or if you wanted just a white bow, you could go like that. But we're going to punch it out of the red glimmer. So just like that, you have your little Scottie dog and you have an extra ribbon. So cute. So this punch is called the Scottie dog, and it is part of the bundle. So if you wanted, you can buy them together and save 10%, or you can buy them on their own. So that's up to you, totally up to you. So let's put that to the side. And where are we going? Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to do with the Stamparatus. I'll do it at the end. I changed my mind. Okay, so let's bring this in and start to assemble our card. Before we do that, I want to stamp this. So I've taken the woof, woof, woof here, from here, and we're going to use the black ink and just randomly stamp it on here. I'm not even going to try to get it straight. Oh, it is photopolymer, so I need to put something spongy underneath. This is a sponge here. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. You just get a far better impression. So let's see. I want to go... I'm going to go this way here and this way here. So I started in the middle because that just helps me with my placement a little better. But the way I'm stamping this, it doesn't really matter. So there we go. We've got the woof, 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 and we can start to assemble our card. So what I have... Well, while I'm here, I might as well punch out the bow, right? So when I've got a bow, or pardon me, a little thing like this, I sometimes go into the corners because I waste a little less that way. There we go. So that worked well. Get rid of that. So we've got this as well. There we go. And I keep saying we're going to start assembling our card, and then I take a side trip, right? So I'm going to bring this in just so you can see the contrast. There we go. So I want to put this here. And you're saying, Lillian, where did you come up with this idea? Well, let me tell you, I love using the Stampin' Up! Catalogs for ideas. And this layout, this idea is from the Celebration catalog. It is from this design right here. So you're saying, well, it doesn't look at all the same. But it's got a card base. It's got designer paper. Well, this is design. I'm using this as designer paper, and it has the hexagon shapes. Now I could have used circles or squares or whatever. And if it's looking familiar to some of you, this is my card layout I released last Friday. So every Friday I release a card layout, and I always take the idea from one of our catalog samples, because our samples in our catalogs are so good. They're artists that design them. So I'm just going to use them and change them up a little bit. And that's where I got the idea. So here is my plan. I should bring that one back in so you can see. Let's see here. So it is, there you go, sort of like that. And then they have a ribbon underneath, and they have the words. Woof, woof, woof. And they stamped on there, but I decided to use the Scottie dog. Now, I played around a little bit, and when I was doing this, I tried it with the metallic, and I liked it better with the gray, basic gray. I also tried some designer paper here, and it was maybe too much red at that point. So what I did is I went with the gray, and then I used the plaid stamp from here, the plaid one, and I stamped it off once with smoky slate. And then I ran it through the fern embossing folder, and I have got a textured hexagon here. And it just seemed to add a little interest in my books anyway. So I've already got that done. And so now I think we can start to build. So let's put the ribbon on here, and we'll bring this in, and we'll bring in our seal, and just run a strip down the back of the greeting piece. And I want to put my ribbon down the middle. Let's see, is my overhang about the same? It's close enough. So now I have that ready to go. The next thing I want to put this onto here. And it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but I like to soften it up a little bit and give it a little bit of dimension. I could put it on a mini dimensional, but I'm just going to use a dot of glue on the collar, because I know that's exactly where the bow is going. And that is going to go on there. Whoops, and the glue is oozing a bit. There we go. So we've got that ready to go. Now we're going to take the hexagon, the real red one. Now I can see this in some of you that love your purples. Can you imagine this in purples or different designer papers? I think this would look really, really neat. I think there's just so much potential. You can also turn it on its side and go that way too. So let me just see here. What am I doing? Busy talking is what I'm doing. I think this will go down about here. And we'll add this here. I want that over a little bit. There, so we have formed the backdrop. Now we're going to bring our little Scottie back and put dimensionals on the back. So we'll put a couple of regular sized ones, and then I'm going to bring in the mini. Now if you don't have the mini dimensionals, one of the things that you can do is get the black, and then you get black mini and the regular size. And somewhere I have the white mini dimensionals, but I don't know where they are, so we'll use these. So now we've got this. Just take the backings off. And put him on there. I'm just going to rest him just in case I change my mind. Oh, I think I like him where he is. And I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of this one as well. So we'll just put, maybe 3. I'm going to try to catch the edges of the ribbon, but I don't want it to overhang, and that one is. So I better peel that one off and move it up just a bit like that. And we'll put this one here. These dimensional backings love to get everywhere. Just like that. And there we go. So we can get some of this out of the way. Now I thought it looks good, but you know, I just have to have an embellishment. And the matte black dots are perfect. So I'm going to bring in my Take Your Pick tool. Whoops, got a little carried away there. Take one of those, and I'm just going to put one here. It just seemed to go with the dots. Now you could add more if you wanted. That's just where I'm going to stop. And just like that, you have the front of your card. Now what about the inside of your card? So what I have done is I brought in the celebration set Amazing Phrases. So I wanted this to be a birthday card, even though he's the Christmas Scottie. I wanted a birthday card, so I've got woof, woof, woof. And then inside, I'm going to put to another year. So I've already got that stamped, because I love all the choices this set gives you. I've got that stamped, but I wanted to put a little Scottie dog down in there too. So let's bring our Stamparatus back in. Take this little dog off. And where did I put it? Here it is. And I'm going to use this one, I think. Oops, got him upside down. This one here. You can tell it's a new stamp set. They're nice and sticky. And so now I'm going to bring this in, and I'm actually going to put it sideways because I want the dog down here. Remember how I said I like to keep my stamping away from the hinges? So I just put my paper in sideways. Going to bring this in to go underneath here again. Move some of this junk I'm accumulating. There we go. And I don't even have to use my magnet because I know that this is tight in the corner. So I'm going to pick up my stamp, going to ink it up. Just like that. Put it down. Oh, I've lost my tissue. I'll just use my fingers. There we go. And I could do it a little bit more, so I'm going to do that. Oh, nice and dark. Now, if you were making multiples of this card, and I am, look what I can do. I can bring in the next piece, put it there. I know this is already in the right place. Ink this up. Stamp. And I can just keep going. And if you are making, say, Christmas cards or cards for wedding invitation, or making multiples of cards for gifts or something, perfect way to get your placement right every time. So I'm just going to move this out of the way. Bring our card in. Add a bit of adhesive to the top. Move that out of the way too. And I use the same size of white on the inside. That way, if I wouldn't get mixed up and make the holes in the wrong one. So I just stuck with the same size. So there you have it. A Scottie, the Christmas Scottie dog for a birthday card, and the dots and, oh, I've forgotten the name of it already. The dots and spots. I should be able to remember that. Embossing folder. It's just absolutely fun to work with, and I think I'd love to see what you come up with, but there's just tons of ideas out there. So here's one of the ideas. Here's one where you used it as a mask, and here are some of the other papers and stuff that I tried it on, just like that, so that you have an idea there. Now, just before we sign off tonight, this is the card we made last week. So that means somebody that left a comment last week gets to, their name was randomly drawn and they get to have it. So you make sure you leave a comment, either watching the replay, watching it live, watching it on YouTube, and your name will go in the draw for this card here. So Catherine, I don't know if I can say your last name, but you can see your last name. How's that? If you send me a message with your address, I will send this card in the mail to you. And just before we go, I had some other things where I've lost them. Be sure that you subscribe to my newsletter, because that is how you will get the measurements for this card. I give the measurements and the things that I used in my newsletter. I've started doing that and it's working out well. And also remember that Paper Pumpkin has, oh, here it is. Paper Pumpkin has a wonderful new series of kits. So it's sort of a 3-month thing for the different seasons that are coming up, or the occasions. So the next one will be a Halloween one, and then a couple of Christmas ones. So I in the description above, I'm going to put the link to my Paper Pumpkin site, I guess you could call it. And just make sure that you are purchasing with me, because sometimes it does funny things. And if you need some help, just give me a holler and you can do it that way. So Paper Pumpkin has some really neat stuff you want to take advantage of. And here is where you sign up for my newsletter. I'll put that link in the description above afterwards too. So that is it. Thank you so much for joining me tonight and for sharing and commenting and just having fun together. And I hope this has inspired you so that you're not feeling intimidated by that particular die or by the little Scottie. You can see that he's good for all kinds of things other than just Christmas. He's great for Christmas too. So take care and thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.